Hey guys, back again. So it's time to add the functionality that is going to allow us to change the color of the page. So we can click here, but of course nothing is going to happen because we don't have that functionality yet. So let me just get there, and we are already importing the function.js inside our index.html, which is here in the bottom on line 45. And let's start coding. So let's say document that add event listener DOM content loaded. We're going to wait for all the DOM to be loaded into the page, and then start looking for the parts of the DOM that we want to access. So let's say constant dark is going to be equals to document that query selector, and we want the class dark, and we do the same with the light equals document that query selector, and we do the light. So just make sure what you are typing here matches these two, okay, because those are the ones that we want to access in case you change the name. Sorry. So if local storage, so we're going to do something. Remember that on the previous or on the preview that I showed you, we were storing the selection of the user so we can refresh the page and access that, so we can show the dark mode if it was selected right away. Okay, instead of the user to have to change it by hand. So we're going to say get item. We're going to check here first, do we have this color theme inside the local storage? Do we have that? Okay. If not, we're going to do this the next thing, document. Well, let's just check it. Document element. So we're going to select the document and set the attribute to the data theme, or for the data theme to be the local storage that get item and color theme. So let me explain in a second. So we select actually the HTML. We set the attribute data theme, which is the one we have here, and we set it to the local storage color theme that we have in case we have that. Okay. So if local storage that get item, so what we're going to do now is to check the color theme. We could store this in a variable, of course, equals. So let's say is this thing equals to dark. Well, we have store equals the word dark. Then we're going to say dark, which we already have inside line 3. Dark that class list that add. So we're going to add a class to this, which is going to be the active class. And you might be thinking, well, we already have the active class in the list by default, so we just need to remove that. So light that class list that remove and the class active. Okay, and else, so meaning this is not equals to dark, well, then it's light, so we're going to do the same thing but backwards, and just like this, remove from the dark and add to the light. So that is all for this if statement, which is going to check if we have the color theme selected. When this is going to happen, let me save that. When we click, okay, so we already have we already had that selected in the local storage. where you might be asking. So let's open the DevTools. Okay, that's why well, this is a full stack channel, so I will try to use most of the things that we have in the browser in order to fit, okay, the needs of a project. So you won't see a ton of this in YouTube anymore. People just give content and just show you one way to do it, and that's it. They forget about it. So I will try to show you most of the things that you can do in order to achieve a goal. So let's go to application, local storage, HTTP, in order for you to start learning, of course, how to use all this if you're a newbie. And if you already have experience, well, you should already know this. So let's remove the color theme dark and let's refresh. Okay, we don't have that color theme, so we're going to default to the white color theme. Okay, so we can keep that open if we want to. Okay, let's just move this a little bit. Okay, it's going to be displayed there. So we already have that. So we don't have the color theme inside the local storage, so we default to the thing that we have, that is the white. So now let's add the event listeners to the code, because when we click here, we want to actually grab this color, or grab, well, not the color, well, you can grab it, of course, grab the settings of the dark mode and apply them to the HTML. So we're going to say dark that add event listener. So when we click this, we're going to set here an arrow function. When we set this, what we're going to do is check if dark, that class list that contains dark, and we're going to return false. So if the class list, meaning we're going to set this, okay, for example, on this light, it's going to return the light and active. Okay, so if we check and we see we have the dark, then we're going to return false. We don't want to do anything because that means that is already selected. Else, we're going to say local storage that set item, I mean not dark, sorry, but active. It's the same, but it's not the same. So sorry. So class list is going to return dark and active if we have that, just like this. And that is actually what we are checking. If we have active, meaning that is already selected. If we already selected, we say, hey dude, no, let me just handle that. Just stop whatever you're planning to do. Don't do anything else, and we just return false, and we continue with the rest of the code. So else, meaning this doesn't have the class active, meaning it's not selected. We're going to set the item name color theme to be dark. We only set this to be the string dark. You can say true or false, okay, if you want to toggle using a boolean. Document that document element, again, in order to select the HTML. Set attribute, so we're going to set the attribute of dark theme, sorry, not dark theme, data theme to be dark. We're going to use a string there too, and we do one more thing, which is this same thing. We're going to select that, okay, the dark class list add active and light class list remove active. So we have that. Let's save this and let's test it. Okay, so keep an eye here, because if I click here, you can see that we store the color theme of dark, but there's a problem. We cannot go back to light, so we're stuck there. And we do actually the same. So let me just copy all this in order to finish the project sooner. We do the same except that we check for the light. So if the light class list contains what the hell the active word, then we're going to return false, meaning it's already selected, just like in the default. Okay, we already have the active. But if not, it means that the user selected the dark mode and we are currently on that mode. So when we click, okay, if we don't have the word active or the class active in the class list, then we're going to set the color theme item to be light. We're going to change the data theme to be light, and we remove the tick from the dark and add it to the light. So let's save this and let's go back. Okay, so this should actually, okay, so I made a mistake here. Let me just take a look at this because it seems that I made a mistake. So the mistake is on local storage. It seems to be is equals to dark class list active, remove active, because the thing is that it's not selecting. Okay, if I refresh, it's going to be stuck there. Get item color theme, data theme, color theme, data theme. Okay, you can see my mistake is that, and when you get used to work with all these features, you can say where you have the problem, because as I said, this works and this works. Okay, we are setting the color theme. Okay, and you can see that even if I hadn't this open, I just tested. The refresh was the first thing to do, and you can see that even though we have the dark mode selected, as I showed you in the preview, we are not defaulting to the dark mode anymore. Okay, so that's why you can see we have this color theme and we have this color theme light. Let's leave it there, or let's even delete that. So if we refresh, we go back to normal. But because we are storing a different thing inside the local storage, and that is the main part that is keeping all this glued together, because when we refresh, it's checking first the local storage, and if it's not working, then the local storage is not working. Okay, we did something wrong there, so let's save this. We already have color theme. Again, that seems to be working. Let's refresh just for good luck. Let's click this. We have color theme dark. Let's refresh. We have color theme dark. Okay, we do this, and now it's only checking the local storage. And if I go here and for some reason I remove this, then the only problem is that it's only going to default to white, and that's it. That's the only thing that we need to do. So you have here a new option, and if you want to use dark and light modes, there's another option, since now we are able to check if our system is using dark or light mode, but that is not entirely supported. That's why I'm not going to use it. Okay, that's why I only went through here, stop when we have the local storage in place, and I'm not going to bother with adding or checking for the OS to be a dark or light mode. So this is it, guys. Thanks again. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, like the video, and see you in the next one.